Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Dylan, and I'm coming to you live from Codename Entertainment. No, in beautiful Victoria, BC, Canada. Shout out to Sasha for helping co-produce and moderate the stream along with me, as well as Erica, without whom the wheels would fall off this bus and everything would fall apart. Uh, no guest today, just me. You know, rolling my charisma saves to see if I can justify it just being me. It's kind of weird, not gonna lie. However, it being the week of both Canada Day in Canada and Independence Day in the United States, in a very different world. Well, it's just a little different. That's all I can say about it. It's a little different. So I am here. You're here. Let's chat. And shout outs to the folks over at D&D, twitch.tv/D&D, who are hosting us. Thank you to whomever that was. I'm assuming it was Lauren? Was it Lauren? I'm not sure who it was. I always just assume it's Lauren because Lauren manages to be omnipresent, is like everywhere all the time. Anyways, do you have questions about Idle Champions that I that I am capable of answering? That's a harsh way of putting it. That I can answer for you. I would love to hear them. What is a keener? Well, Michael USA, here locally, when somebody is described as a keener, they're that person that shows up extra early, over prepared for things, and it's used a little bit like an insult, but like let's be honest. I've always, as somebody who has been an employer in the past or has run nonprofits, etc. The keeners are always my favorite people usually, like because they're always ready to go early. So lots of people are keeners. Anyways, it was just I'm not sure where that phrase initially came from, but it gets used here, in the Pacific Northwest, as if that's a really helpful way of describing it. Happy subiversary, Jedicero. 6 months. Wow. That's awesome. Thank you. Let's see. I just bought a walnut gold chest this morning to get my last epic. Perfect timing. Oh, well, happy to oblige. At what stage does Dylan need to make a wisdom save to keep streaming? Wisdom is the mental fortitude save. Is it? I'm here. I got nothing to do this afternoon. No, I have plenty I could be doing, but I am choosing to spend my time here with you, to talk about, Idle Champions on this 130th episode of the Idle Champions weekly live stream. Actually, one question I want to pose to you, to all of you now. We have talked about naming this show. Because the weekly Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms live stream is a bit of a mouthful. And we have all these other shows now, like we have Bardic Inspiration, we have Griddle Champions, we have Garwar's Guide to Everything in Idle Champions, which admittedly is one of the longer names. We have Mars Guiding Hand. We have 2 more shows in development, various stages of being put together. So if you have an idea for a name for this show that is shorter than the weekly Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms live stream, send it our way. I'm curious. Yeah. Star Chaser 43. Dylan, I was surprised that Bardic Inspiration was canceled this week. Did a Spurt Country ballad prove to be too difficult? No. So I don't talk about my my non-work related personal life stuff very much, but excuse me. I have a young child who is now 5 months old, and over the last week and a half has discovered ways to manipulate the world around them. I guess we're at that stage of cognitive development where an infant starts sleeping more poorly, as far as we can see it, waking up more frequently, but what they're also doing is learning that they can cry in different ways and get their parents to do different things. In this case, whenever they wake up and they want us to come pick them up or hold them, or whatever, they can just scream and wake you up. So on Tuesday night, both Monday night and Tuesday night, I was up every hour, and I was able to make it through Monday. But on Tuesday morning, I was up at 5 a.m. and I'm like, I am going to do my half workday now and then go back to bed for the rest of the day because I'm hooped. And then I ended up, despite yesterday being a stat holiday in Canada for Canada Day, I ended up putting in my other half day in yesterday to make up for it. So yeah, I was just not in a position to do Bardic Inspiration this week. Very, very excited to tackle the next episode. Jason and I have put together some time to try and bring the Brunor Battlehammer song to a more complete state, so that can be performed for everybody to kick off episode 2. And then we're gonna dive into the extremely limited history of the most beloved and well-known kobold of all time. Sorry Meepo, sorry Deacon, sorry Ishii. And it's we're gonna do a full stream trying to write the perfect song for Spurt the Kobold. It should be interesting. Anyways, it's it certainly wasn't because we didn't want to do it. It's an entirely Dylan doesn't get to sleep anymore because child. Anyways, let's see what else we got. GG2E is a long name. Well, so GG2E is a perfect way to condense down Garwar's Guide to Everything. But saying or writing out Garwar's Guide to Everything, it takes up some space. It's a longer name. So we're still looking for what the right name is for the weekly Idle Champions live stream. Something with a little bit more character than weekly Idle Champions live stream. Yeah. Hidden combo. The hidden combo is an easy one. I do not. I do not expect it to take anybody very long. Dylan discusses everything that comes to mind. Oh, thanks, Garwar. Chatting champions. Chatting champions. I kind of like that, Cassius, but it's chatting champions. Chatting champions. Chatting champions. Yeah, you can say that kind of fast. That's not bad. That's a contender. I am sad for you, Dylan, not to be accepted in the beta testers program for the new stuff coming. No new Nike icon on your screen. I have not opted in to. I can't. I do not have the extra time to do any kind of meaningful feedback about the upcoming features. That being said, a number of folks do, and that's what we're working on. We want to get it into a much more complete state before either opening up testing more or getting closer to launch. But luckily we have a couple dozen really helpful folks who are providing us with a lot of feedback, perhaps even more feedback than we might have been anticipating at this stage. And so we're on it. How do hidden combos work? Well, Raphael, it depends on what hidden combos you're talking about. The ones for the weekly Idle Champions live stream, possibly Chatting Champions, or Dylan discusses whatever he's thinking about. For this show, I like to put at least one extra combination into the system that is tied to the show that players can find. And sometimes they find it very quickly. Once or twice it hasn't been discovered at all. But for the most part, it'll be tied in some way to the content of the show or something related to the show. And I feel like the information is perfectly set up for somebody to easily discover the hidden combination for today's episode, if it hasn't already. I assume it was probably found immediately. Now, if you're referring to the 2020 hidden combinations, I think there's two left. I know we put an extra one into the system for fun, just to see if somebody would test that code, but I can't give any hints on that because it's too easy. Why wasn't the hidden combo Founders Day 3? How is that hidden? It says Founders Day 3 right on the screen. That wouldn't have made a very good hidden combination. Warden and Dragonbait. Oh, that's an interesting assumption, Warden and Dragonbait. Well, I have... No, that's too good of a hint. If there's only two left, I don't know that we can hint either of those yet. But I will confirm that yes, the last code is for Dragonbait. Because I don't know if I've confirmed that already, but it is. A lot of people were thinking that it was Morgaine, but very consciously didn't do one for Morgaine this year, so that when we do more hidden combinations to kick off 2021, knocking on wood that the world makes it to 2021, starting with Morgaine, the first champion of 2020, right through to the last champion of 2020, whom I'm not going to spoil yet. All of them will get some kind of clever phrasing or codes. Yeah, we need an actual hint for Dragonbait. Well, it's all the pieces of the hidden combination for Dragonbait are in game. In fact, you can I think see them all on the same screen, but I might be mistaken about the last part, so that might not be a good hint. I just know that if I give you too much of a hint, you guys find it like that because you're smarter than I am. So when I think I'm being vague, you're like, oh, it's this. So just kind of gonna hold back a little bit on that one. Let's see what else we got. Who does Warden serve? So that's an interesting question, Thunder. There is an assumption that has been made about who Warden's master is. Now, if you'll remember back to what we've actually written about Warden canonically, I guess we could say canonically because there's a bio for Warden and there's a Warden Champion Spotlight. So the officially written content for Warden does not state who Warden's patron is. Now, there are some interesting assumptions about who their patron is based on their abilities. But if you look at the items and equipment that Warden has, and they're about as grimdark as you can get, combining D&D lore and adding in Eberron elements as well. But there are a number of different potential options among those, among the entities tied to Warden's equipment. So no, we haven't ever explicitly said who Warden's patron is. Yeah. No, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna dive into it too much further. I have strongly considered writing more, and I was very, very happy to get the opportunity to collaborate with the artists and make this. I'm just gonna plunk, level up, and drop this character in the formation. I know my DPS number will go down, but you can't even see the DPS number. Actually, I hit the top UI. So sorry, Morgaine. Plunk. This is the upcoming Siren Knight Warden skin that Adam drew over the last... Well, actually, I can't remember exactly when Adam drew it, but will be coming to the game soon, TM. But relatively soon. I won't spoil how exactly. But before Warden was an emaciated, hunched, warforged, made of metal and cancer. Warden was a buff knight, warforged, decorated, part of the Siren military, and eager to take on their job of managing a prison for extraplanar, otherworldly threats. It tends to be more helpful for everybody involved for those types of things to be bound and locked away forever. But some unspecified cataclysm hit the world of Eberron, and the Kingdom of Sire was I don't know. I guess it's not putting it mildly to say that it was basically annihilated. But that prison cracked open like an egg, and the warden that emerged afterwards looked more like the one on the right than the one on the left. Um, yeah, it was not a good time. Anyways, there will be a hint for Warden for their hidden combination, but it's yeah, it's too early for it. Too early to talk about that now. Strangely, also in this slot is the other hidden combination character. What are the odds of that? That's so weird. Although I gotta say, I was impressed that that Strix's grandma was found, because I felt like that was a code that we would have to hint towards more fully. And I don't know if that was that you, Garawar? Was that like a during your stream thing? Because I was surprised to see that code pop up as discovered. And I was like, oh, impressive. You guys are resourceful or just like dedicated brute forcers. Warden's patron is actually Dylan, who is making his favorite champion as powerful as possible. I mean, Warden is still a powerful champion, but perhaps there are better ones. Let's see. Bum, 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 bum. Hello, Dylan. Hello, champions. Exhausting week so far. Therefore, I am directly out, heading to bed. It is 22:15 here. Oh, it's late. See you soon and stay well. Crislow at Twitch. Have a good rest. Let's see. What else do we have? Who destroyed Eberron? Sorry if I misspelled it. Eberron is a campaign setting that was created by Keith Baker for 3rd edition or 3.5. And I don't remember it exactly because that was like 20 years ago. But I swear to God, it was there was like a competition or something to create the next setting for D&D. And I'm pretty sure that's how Eberron was created. I could be wrong. Please properly inform me, somebody in chat, if I'm mistaken. But Eberron is the creation of Keith Baker. And I think he goes by like Hellcow Keith or something like that on Twitter. I think it's Hellcow Keith. I just want to double check. Yep, Hellcow Keith. You know you've met Keith Baker because he's wearing a cowboy hat. Anyways, really nice guy. Makes lots of other games. He's got his own studio where he makes board games and stuff. I highly recommend checking them out, or ordering from them if you can, since you probably won't be able to check one out at a con in 2020 or maybe even 2021. We'll see how things go. But anyways, so Keith made Eberron, and it's one of my favorite campaign settings because it's like my favorite Final Fantasy game. It's like Final Fantasy VI. It is a magic infused steampunk world with a lot of interesting stuff in it. Anyways, in the timeline of Eberron, there's this great, vast, epic history to it that you can look into. There were all these other kingdoms, and there was a dispute over succession on the continent of Corvair, and there was a subsequent, basically a continental war. I'd call it a world war, but like there were a lot of there are other continents on Eberron, and they weren't involved. It was a Corvair thing. All these kingdoms basically fighting to ascend and rule, and the war persisted for a long time. There are a lot of crazy technological inventions and advancements over the course of the war, including the Warforged and Warforged Titans. So yeah, there are giant battle mechs in Eberron, and then at some point. There was this mysterious cataclysm in the kingdom of Sire, and in an instant or overnight, this entire land, this whole country, was basically turned into a toxic, magical wasteland, and like even magic doesn't behave properly there anymore. they're like fireball spells could be like living sentient things that just rampage across the landscape doing whatever they want. And there are all kinds of weird like magical undead and soldiers that can't die and just like like every kind of horrific atrocity that you could imagine, with a with a twisted outcome. It kind of exists in that setting. So yeah, the Mournland is this. Yeah, it's kind of like this massive toxic landscape that used to be the Kingdom of Sire, and which used to be where Warden was from. And yeah, it's kind of that's Eberron. There's a lot of other interesting stuff in it, but I'm not good enough at recalling things in detail anymore now that I don't sleep like I used to, because kids. But there's a pretty rich and detailed history of Eberron and the city of Sharn, which is like this. It's kind of like Midgard from Final Fantasy VII, I guess, in that it's like this. It's this stacked, tiered city that by itself is a massive enough of a setting that you could do some really cool stuff in it. It's absolutely huge. So, highly recommend Eberron. I think Keith wrote a bunch of books about it too. Check it out. There's there are 2 Eberron books that he has contributed to that are 5e compatible that you can look into. There's there's Eberron Rising from the Last War, which is the officially published 5e book that Wizards put out end of last year. And then there's also Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron on DM's Guild that was put together by Keith and Rudy Rutenberg. Both good reads. Both have lots of information. The lore aspects are relevant to both. Check it out. Cool setting. But it's not Dark Sun. Alrighty. Is Caddy Bree supposed to deal more DPS than Dritz? I mean, that really depends on the formation that you put together. Certainly, Caddy Bree has the fortunate distinction of being in a good slot for being a top tier DPS. Whereas Dritz is in a slot where there is an absolutely amazing buffer support tank in Ayla, as well as a really strong buffer in Morgaine, and another good buffer in Makos. And so it's harder to make a formation where Dritz is amazing. But again, it really depends on what kind of equipment you have, what champions you have unlocked, etc. So, let's see. I saw Margaret mention Beetle and Grimm is coming to Idle Champions. Is that new champions or something else? I only know of it as a company, not as characters. Well, Deserton, Beetle and Grimm are coming to the game as a champion. As a single champion that you can use their ultimate to swap which one is in the formation, and is designed in such a way that they play off the swap. So while one isn't in the formation, the other one is gaining power, and then it benefits you to transition and swap them back and forth. Although you can choose to use simply one or the other. I can't really get further into their design right now, but yeah, Beetle and Grimm are coming to the game and are the next champion coming, I think, after Freely. Champions. Yeah. Anyways, yeah, Beetle and Grimm will be coming. This would have been a great time for me to put up the Beetle and Grimm animated one sheet, but I didn't prep that because I didn't think of it while I was getting the show ready today. So rather than try to improvise something that will probably break the stream, you'll just have to check out. I'm pretty sure we put it out on social media, didn't we? I know that Beetle and Grimm themselves, so Matthew Lillard and it's not Paul Shapiro, it's the other guy at Beetle and Grimm. So the Beetle and Grimm's Pandemonium Warehouse company that makes the high end 5e products. It's a collection of 6 friends who have been playing D&D together for decades. And so we talk to Paul the most, but his character isn't Grimm. And I forget whose character is. So if somebody wants to post in chat who it is, thinking of Christophe Wee, who would know, because he had to talk to him about the design. But yeah, it's an interesting pair, trying something new, of course, again. with the champion. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Um, let's see. I wonder if Beetle and Grimm's ultimate cooldown item will increase or decrease the timer. Well, that's a good question. I have no idea. I haven't personally read through the champion design beyond the very, very basic aspects of it. I think they. I think. Sorry, I was reading a comment and got distracted myself. I think they're going to be really interesting. And I'm excited to see it hit the game. Yeah. Let's see. Dear Mr. Dillon, Canadian Security Intelligence Service here. Ooh, CSIS. We'd like to schedule an interview as we are impressed at your ability to not reveal confidential information on numerous streams, even those the day after Canada Day. Yeah, and 2 days before Independence Day in the United States. So there's a couple things to it. I would love nothing more than to talk about all kinds of cool stuff that we have planned for this year. Characters coming to the game, things that I'm sure would excite people, but what I don't want to do is to, again, make the mistake of talking about something before it gets locked into place and is 100% going to arrive at a certain time, and then disappoint everybody by having long delays before that said character or feature or whatever arrives. So, we talked about Dragonbait and Ulcoria Stone Marrow way too early. Dragonbait has since made it to the game. Ulcoria will make it to the game in the next couple months. But I don't want to get too far into other stuff that's coming to the game. I know that there are a number of dedicated folks who love tearing things apart and putting them back together and just seeing how everything fits together. And they have data mined out some information about characters that may be coming in the near future, and some other spoilery tidbits of information. And so if that's something that very much interests you, while I cannot comment on what is in the well of spoilers on the Idle Champions Discord, you can definitely find some interesting things in there, for sure. Just take it with a grain of salt. If something is not officially released, it's not officially released. So it may change, evolve, etc., before it eventually makes its way into the live game. Also, for those of you who are wondering whether or not there is a Canadian Security Intelligence Service, CSIS, there is. And if you're wondering why you haven't heard of them, it's because they're actually a really good intelligence service that a lot of the rest of the world likes to work with if they can. They do exist. Hopefully I don't disappear because I said that on screen. Famous Canadian band Rush. If you choose not to comment, you still have made a comment. It's true. Yep. Being from the UK, the memory of Beatles About is already scary. I dread to imagine what would happen to people with someone called Grimm on the staff. Well, they were secret until you ruined that. Well, it's not like it's hidden. You can look it up on the internet. You can look up CSIS. It's there. But I've always been fascinated because popular fiction and television and all this other stuff, familiarizes people with a lot of things, right? How many cop shows have there been? And how many shows about FBI agents or CIA agents or MI5 agents or whatever. I can't remember there ever being even mention of CSIS in any of these shows, despite the fact that it's a very big and mysterious intelligence agency, but it's just nobody makes anything about it. But I'll tell you one story, and it was probably decades ago now. Somebody who works for CSIS left a briefcase accidentally in a taxi cab in Toronto or Ottawa or Toronto, and that city got locked down like that until it was found. And I just that was the only time anybody had ever most people hadn't even heard of them before. And it's just they exercised some authority and solved that really quickly. And so it's kind of been one of those things. It's the first time you heard about it is that they were able to do this, so who knows? Yeah. Nobody talks about it because secret agents apologizing to you is boring. Well, maybe. Yeah. Anyways, there is a CSIS. It's true. Um, Speaking of, since nobody's asking me any questions about the game, I don't know how many of you check out other podcasts and documentaries, but like, just I find personally the world of intelligence a very interesting thing to learn about. I'm not a diehard. I don't read tons of stuff about it, but I do like reading interesting articles, and I was very intrigued by the breadth and scope of the revelations that Edward Snowden brought forward just a few years ago. That wasn't that long ago. You just forgot about it because the world came unraveled over the last couple of years. But I very much suggest that you check out. Edward Snowden did an interview on the Joe Rogan Experience at the end of last year in like October or November, and basically just talked for almost 3 hours. Like, Joe Rogan barely got a word in and didn't try to interrupt because what Edward Snowden was talking about was really interesting. And I highly recommend it, because even just how he describes the things that you take for granted, like how your cell phone operates and how it is used against you, was a little bit mind blowing. Did you watch B. Dave Walters' Free Play Freely in stream? I did not. No. I was yesterday. I was frantically trying to get work done to make up for the fact that Tuesday was only part of a work day for me. So I didn't watch any streams. No, I assume it was awesome because B. Dave is awesome and Lauren is awesome. So I'm sure it was. Sure it was a lot of fun. Let's see. The NRO was so secretive, no one knew who they were until they built a new HQ, and people asked, who is that for? And then they went looking. Yeah, I mean, I feel like any intelligence agency that knows what it's doing, you probably don't know where their office is. um, you know. Or you could just have it be a really big, bold, five-sided building, and just say, come at me, I guess. Any thoughts on the San Diego Comic-Con Funko Pops, especially the Vex one that is super cute? So I've only seen the Vex one. Are there other ones? Supply, I haven't seen the other ones. The Vex one was, yeah, it was adorable. I don't have any Funko Pops, and I don't know that I would put any on my desk. I have a big grimdark Eredin from The Witcher 3, the leader of the Wild Hunt, the King of the Elves. On my desk, and it looks harsh. It would look weird having a little blockhead beside it. Although I would make one exception because there was a con exclusive gelatinous cube Funko Pop made that I would love to have on my desk. That Codename has a small stockpile of, but not enough for everybody. So I'm just saying, I wouldn't mind one of those. Alrighty. To take a drink of water. Hello, Dylan. The complete area objective for patrons over non-patron variants are usually plus 100 levels for Mert, 125 for Vajra, 150 for Strahd. However, the Tomb variants, Fall from Grace and Underground Railroad, have objectives of no patrons 350, Mert 375, Vajra 400, Strahd 425. I'm curious why these variants have much lower patron area requirements. I can't give you a definitive answer because I don't have access to Justin right now because he's not working today. But my assumption is that as these things get put together, we kind of look at some of the variants and some of the ones that are more difficult, and we attempt to do some preemptive balancing to bring their requirements down a little bit to make it more possible to get through them. I know that some combinations of patron restrictions combined with certain variants will make them extraordinarily more difficult. So my guess is that it was a special case where they were intended to be balanced a little easier. The Dragon Bait hidden code has been found. Oh, well, in that case, I am definitely not going to give any hints related to Warden. Yeah. Alrighty. With all these months lockdown, hopefully C&E has built the Pope Mobile brand bulletproof plexiglass gelatinous cube version 2.0. Oh god, I don't know that we're going to try and rebuild the cube. and it's a sad, sad day. But yeah, for those who do not know, we had built a life size, well, as close to life size as we could manage, 7 foot by 7 foot by 7 foot gelatinous cube that we brought to PAX West in last year, and that we attempted to bring to PAX South 2020, and we shipped it, and it did not survive the journey. The cases were opened by, let me tell you, the ordeal that our team went through just to get to PAX South was the kind of travel nightmare you don't wish would happen to anybody. And it involved very, very long delays, really horrible timing for flights, and then not even being able to fly into where you needed to go, and instead flying somewhere and then driving the last few hours to get there. And so to open up the boxes the next day to set up the booth and find a deceased gelatinous cube was tough. It was tough on the team. I don't know that we were able to. It was insured for shipping, and I think we were able to recoup some of the losses for that, but I'm not quite sure how that turned out. So I'll have to wait and poke Dexter to find out how that went, because he was the one it fell upon him to look into the policies and see if we could get that thing, get the insurance covered for it. Yeah. So I don't know if we'll build another one, but we certainly love and miss the one that we had. Press F to pay respects for the cube. Omen 429. Good day to you, Dylan. Any chance we could see Alias to go alongside Dragonbait? We don't currently have any plans to introduce Alias to the game. The main reason that we added Dragonbait was because, not because of Azure Bonds or any of the books in which Dragonbait travels with Alias, but because Dragonbait was included in the Tomb of Annihilation TRPG book and was a companion alongside Artist Simber. And so that's why we included Dragonbait in the game. I don't know that we'll ever approach Alias as a character. We might not. It's a great big question mark at this point. At this point, there are, we have a decent sized list of characters we would like to add to the game, Alias doesn't crack the top 10 to 20 of those. And also we're also because we're in various stages of development, and because we are now available on 8 platforms instead of 1, like when this show started. Development lead times mean that we have to kind of plan stuff out much further in advance. So we actually have our champions list set through about this time next year, is when it starts to open up. It's pretty crazy. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sorry if that disappoints you, Omen 429, but the chances of seeing Alias are kind of slim. Alrighty. Enjoying the new illicit undertaking story. Oh, good. I'm glad you like it. Can you talk about the pink elephants in the room? You've seen Dumbo, right? This is the sober up variant that I'm just kind of casually letting my party casually letting them idle through, and they'll get through it eventually. I didn't want to have a fast moving party for the stream because I find it personally kind of distracting when everything's moving quickly behind me, because I'm always looking at there's a camera here, but then the game is right behind my head. It's weird. So anyways, there are pink elephants in this variant. And so if any of you saw a certain animated Disney film many decades ago, made many decades ago, you might have seen it recently. There was a scene about the dangers of over imbibing that had some very curious, colorful pink and purple elephants. And also, like, some casual racism and some other stuff too. Like, there's certainly problematic stuff from animation from that time period. Anyways, oh, there must be a raffle because I can no longer see anything that people were saying. Hopefully, there were no other questions that were just typed in because I missed it. Anyways, yeah. Pink elephants. Well, magenta. Magenta and pink. Boom. Barrel. Barrel eats all. Oh, crawl zombies. Splorch. I love that animation. I remember when Alexis was animating Krull's ultimate ability, and like you just saw the zombie crawl forward and then explode, and it's just the part where its head pops off and rolls forward. We were just like, oh, yeah, it's gory yet surprisingly good. Casual racism and sexism was basically all cartoons through the 80s. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm sure somebody who has the historical context, somebody who teaches, you know, film history, or does race studies, or studies feminism, many of those things, like, can probably cite more specific examples. But I mean, it's not overstating it to mention that, yeah, a lot of cartoons, comic books, media was casually sexist and racist, and sometimes still continues to be. Yeah. Warden serves cube. What campaign is this? So this is a variant in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist campaign, one of the deeper variants. Just before the stream started, I was kind of going through all the campaigns, trying to pick an adventure to turn on, and I realized, I'm like, oh, I haven't actually completed. I completed the newer adventures, but I didn't complete the variants. So I'm just starting those now. Apparently, this variant is challenging. Normally, I have familiars and other stuff going, but I'm just kind of. How about this guy, also on the Ultimates bar, so that things are getting killed? Because I have a lot of 0 damage champions right now. Wow. Yeah, that's not having the impact on that boss that I was hoping for. Oh man. That is so weird to see. Good, reach the formation. These little splatter ultimates are just so good at chewing through bosses. I remember when we first introduced Donar to the game, and people weren't entirely sold on it, and then all of a sudden, barfing on an armored boss, you're like, oh crap, it kills them. Anyways, let's see. Oh, I have. Freely's formation counter has to reach 500. It has not reached it. It resets every time. Still in the Sword Coast. Second house. Rip Cube. Your butt's going to 0. Use contracts to reduce the pink elephant stack. Oh, does that do that? Really? I do have contracts. Oh, that's so weird that does that. I mean, I know it technically makes sense, but... Huh. Neat. Anyways. Or else idle a long time on a boss level? Yeah. I initially thought the 0 damage champions were the clue to the hidden chest. Tried a bunch of things related to that before I realized it was much easier. Yeah, I didn't make a very difficult combination this time around. Sometimes I'm feeling spunky and I want to do something that I know will be either like tied to the interview with the person that I'm talking to or something, and like, provide an opportunity for you to have something, worth hunting. But since I knew it was just going to be me today, I didn't want to try and put something complicated in and then like just forget to talk about it. Alrighty. Let's see. Do you guys have plans to reach into older editions or content for future characters and updates, or do you only do stuff with 5e Origins? I would adore seeing adventures in Sigil or champions from Planescape Torment, if that's something Wizards of the Coast has on the table. So there's a couple parts to that. One, if we want to look into using content from older editions of D&D, uh, that door is open to us. But we do very consciously focus on 5e, just because we came out when 5e is this great big huge mainstream version of D&D apparently, but it's popular, and we kind of like it gives us more than enough content to dig into. We don't have campaigns for Storm King's Fury or Rise of Tiamat. Uh, you know, there's a lot of stuff that like we could also do if we wanted to. But in terms of like older editions and content, I mean, the Great Modron March event is leaning into older content because there isn't a 5e module for it. There are some of the Modrons available with 5e stat blocks, but not everything. That was us kind of like looking to an older edition, like, hey, this event is weird as hell. We like it. Let's use it, and so we did. Now that being said, we were able to use it because it was something that crossed over into the Forgotten Realms. So we aren't going to be crossing over from the Forgotten Realms into other planes. So we won't be going to Kryn. We won't be going to Dark Sun. And yes, I know we did go to Barovia, but Barovia is its own little pocket dimension that's kind of like, I don't know, it's a special case, I guess you could say. Anyways, so yeah, like our chances of going to Sigil or going, doing any of the Planescape Torment stuff is very slim. But parts where those things can cross over into the Forgotten Realms, yeah, it's certainly a possibility. Smut Puffin. Dylan, have you caught up to episode 99? No, I am, God, I'm way behind on Critical Role. But I'm happy that they are making their return tonight. I might tune in anyways just to see how they handle this new era of social distancing and whatever other restrictions they have to operate within in order to make episodes of Critical Role. So I'm excited that they are back, but I am not caught up. I'm trying to think of where. They did not have Yasha back in the party last I watched it, nor was not. I don't even want to spoil anything, but anyways. So yeah, I'm definitely behind. I'm late today. Happy late Canada Day. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate the sentiment. I think that. Without getting preachy, because I know nobody came here for me to be preachy, but when I think about Canada Day, in recent years I've had kind of mixed feelings about it because there are lots of things to be proud of and happy about when it comes to Canada as an idea, but there's also a lot of work that can be done, and I am not somebody who is a huge fan of the let's party and get wasted because of this day. Like, if you're looking for an excuse to party, just go party. But Canada Day is an interesting one in that, there are a lot of real systemic issues between Canada and how it treats its indigenous peoples and unceded territory land that technically isn't Canada and all this other stuff. And it's just it's a great big can of worms that, for me, gets opened every year. Not because I have any indigenous blood in me from Canada, although I do have some from the States, because I have Pawnee and Cherokee in my bloodline. But it's a complicated thing. Yeah. I think that a lot of people, and I'll be brief, don't worry. I think that a lot of people are only now starting to realize how present and modern the effects of colonialism still are in North America. There's this, as you are raised and you go to school and you take your social studies and history classes, you're kind of raised to believe that we've moved past all of that into this modern era. But what we've really done is ignored, obfuscated, and kind of like hidden under the rug a lot of the stuff and just never dealt with it. So on Canada Day, I spend more time thinking about that than I do about how much I love Canada and being Canadian. And certainly there are things to love. I mean, I am super proud of both our provincial and our federal leadership and how they've dealt with a pandemic. Given the circumstances, I thought they did really, really well. Are doing really well. So, it is what it is. I know that that's not what somebody was asking for when they're like, "Hey, happy belated Canada Day." But I just, I feel obligated to mention. Yeah. Anyways, Canada Day in Ottawa this year. Interesting not having the swarm of people downtown near Parliament. Low key and much more pleasant personally. Yeah. I like. I look at holidays like this as, it's not just an opportunity to reflect on the things that you are proud of as a citizen of wherever you are, but also at the things that still need to be done in order for it to be a welcoming and inclusive society for everybody who's a part of it, not just pretending to be like that's what it is. And so Canada has its problems too. But yeah, I lean towards low key stuff for holidays like that. Were we not in an era of social distancing, I would have seen family and friends. We would have had a barbecue and just chilled out. No big partying for me. Victoria, being the capital of British Columbia, we have this. We have the legislature, the seat of government here, but there's this massive lawn there in front of it, where lots of events get hosted. And so on Canada Day, normally what happens is these steps to the legislature have an outdoor music festival stage built for it. And then we get a mix of, prominent Canadian musicians and local musicians to perform a day-long free concert, which I have, at many times enjoyed attending in the past. It was a lot of fun. But also, then all of a sudden next thing you know, there's 30, 40, 50,000 people that are utterly inebriated downtown. And it's just kind of, I don't know. Not a fan of that part. Yeah. Vanilla Ice is having a concert in Texas. Oh my God. So I was reading about that yesterday or the day before. And just the idea that you could go to a Vanilla Ice concert and get COVID, it just is the most insane thing. My God. Yeah. Yeah. My school tried that, but I had a Black history teacher who made sure every student who came through her class knew the real history. Her classes were intense. Best teacher ever. Hey, no, that's good. There's a lot of stuff that is not taught in school. That phrase, history is written by the victor, is very, very, very true. And if anything, you should just learn to question everything and educate yourself and, pay attention to sources and biases and so on and so forth. There's a lot to it. Anyways, somebody's saying, sorry, I didn't mean to skip this, OJ Drinker, but you're saying that you played 3rd edition and you didn't know what a Modron was. A Modron is a clockwork being that is from a hierarchical society, and they're from a plane of true neutrality in law, the clockwork plane of Mechanus. And so this plane is run by its own deity, called Primus, and Primus is the Modron at the very top, I guess, and is deity-like or god-like, and then it's kind of there's just degrees of Modrons all the way down to the monodrones at the very, very bottom, and Modrons are constantly being constructed. They're just these quirky, strange clockwork beings, and they're they're quirky and weird. Anyways, there was a module for Planescape a long time ago called the Great Modron March. And it was the one that detailed the fact that these weird clockwork beings, every 17 cycles on Mechanus, which is 77 years or some strange number of years, they tour the realms, the planes. And so they leave Mechanus and they kind of make their way through all the other planes, everywhere from Avernus to what have you, all the planes. And they even pop through the material plane through Undermountain, officially. And they just kind of they do this tour, and thousands of them leave, and hundreds of them, maybe dozens or hundreds of them, make it back. And it's just nobody really knows or understands why Primus sends them out, but it happens. Maybe I don't know. Who knows? It's mysterious, but it's a that was a 2E module that was made, and that was the one that we used as the inspiration for the Great Modron March event. Chris Perkins had been on an episode of Lore You Should Know in the months leading up to when we first made that event, and I remember listening to it and being like, "That is so weird." Just thinking about it, and then looking up the old module and then sending it to Justin and be like, "Hey, check this out. Isn't this weird? This would make a good event." And now we have it as an event. Of course, then we had to come up with a narrative justification for why this supposedly rare event is showing up every year outside Waterdeep, which is where it shouldn't be. So that's where that came together. And not only is that an event that shows up every year in game, but it is now a playable module. If you go to D&D Beyond, the Mechanical Menace series of adventurers that was that we collaborated with Scott Fitzgerald Gray on. Scott Fitzgerald Gray being one of the... Do I have a D&D? No, I don't have a D&D book handy. He's one of the editors of nearly every 5e D&D book and has been editing Dungeons & Dragons books for decades. He worked with us on putting that adventure together, and so it's 5 one-shots with everything you need to kind of put it together. 5 encounters that with everything you need to put it together in one-shot. That you could probably play in an evening, more than a 3-hour session, I would think. But you'd probably be able to play it in a good evening session of D&D. The Mechanical Menace. Jandra 411. What update? I'm still stuck calculating offline progress. That's not good. Please send us an email. Since obviously, if you're stuck there, you can't go into the game and put it in a game support ticket, but send us an email to idlechampions@codenameentertainment.com and give us your account information, and then Sean will look into your account and see what glitch is hanging you up, and we should be able to get that addressed for you. I'm sorry that's happening. That's frustrating. But I'm sure we can fix it. Alrighty. Since it was 3 years between Crusaders of the Lost Idols release and the Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms release, and we are approaching a 3-year gap again, can we look forward to Idle Avengers of the MCU soon? Well, I can officially state that we are not developing an Idle Avengers of the Marvel Cinematic Universe game. And I imagine that would be a challenging license to get. But as it turns out, are they not? They're releasing an Avengers game this year, aren't they? Sometime soon. I keep seeing media about it. Anyways, so there's an Avengers game coming out if that's your jam. Do we have another game in development? So nothing that I can say officially by a long shot. What I can say is that, as a video game company, we will inevitably make more games, and we will likely develop and test out a number of things before we ever get to the point where we start putting something together that could be in a released state where players could play it. So that's a great big old no comment from me. Just gonna do that thing. One thing I noticed was when I do streams where I'm by myself and I talk, my throat gets dry a lot faster. Weird, right? It's funny, I collect Swell water bottles for some reason. Because they're good thermoses, but I got this blue one for free, and I'm like, this is going to be my water bottle that has only ever had water in it. And so here it be, my water bottle. Whereas my black one has only ever had tea in it, and so the inside of it, the stainless steel, is kind of like that brown, has always had tea in it look, and when you open it up, it smells faintly of Earl Grey all the time. Side note: this morning, I had slept on the couch because my child had taken my spot in the bed, so. But I slept surprisingly well because there was no small child in the room screaming, waking me up in the middle of the night. And so when I got up and I went and, I said hi to my wife, and I went and decided to improvise making tea instead of doing my regular routine, because I have this Sri Lankan Earl Grey that I've been going through that is a bit intense, but still pretty good. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to change things up. I did a sort of like a honey, ginger, lemon, turmeric tea that like I just steeped the exact right amount and I got the exact right quantities in, and it was absolutely delicious. To the point where I wish I had a lot more of it. And like I don't know, any other tea drinkers understand that point where you're like, I'm going to mix this up or I'm going to change this thing up or whatever. And then like you just make this amazing tea and then you realize that you can't do that again. Anyways, what color is your coffee bottle? I don't drink coffee. It is too acidic for my stomach, so I can't drink it. It'll make me, well, feel real bad, I guess is the best way I could put it. Anniversary is coming soon. It's a few months away. Any spoilers for the anniversary celebration? Well, no. What can I say? What can I say about the anniversary celebration? I could say that there will be one. That we are excited and interested in what it's going to be like going into year 4 and year 4 events. I know that the first year 4 champion is like in the midst of being drawn and finalized right now, and I think players will be very, very excited about them. But the anniversary celebration, I wouldn't expect us to break the mold. I would say that it is very likely that we will do a week long or more or less. We'll do some kind of celebration that will invite participation, that will have unique, exclusive rewards. Yeah, and that's about what I can say about our next anniversary celebration. I can't really get into it further than that. Will there be a months-long event this year, like with High Rollers or the C Team events in the past? Well, Garwar, what I can say about that is that there is not currently one in development. Our development is very much focused on the next major features for the game, which are, as you are aware, as one of our beta testers, that are big features. So that's our focus on. We focus on what's immediately in front of us, and like we do, we have groundwork laid out and plans for things beyond that, but we're kind of all hands on deck on the same thing right now. We're all that's what our team is dedicating the most time to at the moment. I know making coffee in the French press has variables that make a huge difference with even the slightest change: grind size, water temperature, brew time, number of stirs. Yeah, so I grew up in a household with parents who were thoroughly addicted to coffee. To the point where, 5 a.m. every day, my dad would wake me up with the coffee grinder sound, grinding the coffee for the exact same amount of time every morning. And then, letting it sit in the French press after boiling the water for a certain amount of time, pouring it from some obscenely high height because, the ritual meant that much to him, and I'm sure it has some kind of impact on it. And like, so he has his ritual for making coffee that is apparently very strong according to people who actually drink it. I don't know. Yeah, he doesn't deviate from it even still, and it's been decades he's been making it the same way with his French press. He used to I used to have to pull apart that French press and clean it every day until I broke 3 of them, and then they wouldn't let me touch their French presses anymore because the glass they use for them is like hyper fragile. You tap it against something and it just explodes broken glass into your sink. I can't believe I never cut myself with one of those, but I broke a whole bunch of them. I've woken up from a deep sleep by Daddy Buzzkill every morning. Amazing, grew up to adulthood. Well, yeah, I mean, that's my dad's ritual. I got used to. You get used to it. You're like, you hear it, and you're kind of like, and then you roll over. But yeah, he still does it. Only now I'm up at 5 because my child has already woken me up. bum, 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 bum. All right. I am kind of new to this game, but you guys should add a note or warning or whatever in the tutorial to not use potions in contracts, since it's a waste when you open all the free chests you get with them codes. Well, it's not a waste. It's just that, potions and contracts are usable in individual adventures. So you kind of want to hold on to them and use them when they're needed, because they can help you get further at different times. But I could pass your feedback along. Feedlock. You can pass your feedback along. Ugh. Timo bot insane, and also Timo bottom really. Ugh, Timo. Such a troll choice. Good counterpick to Garen though, I guess. Oh, you mean the bot? Oh, okay. For some reason I read that as bottom lane. I was like, Jesus, really? But you mean the bot on insane. Oh, okay. Still, Timo. I have, in all seriousness, a stainless steel French press from a Canadian company, Espro. You can't break it. That's good to know. I just don't drink coffee, so I don't worry about French presses. I drink tea, and I got a growing collection of teas. And it's one of the things that actually has really sucked about the pandemic is we have some pretty awesome tea shops in Victoria, and haven't been able to go to them. I guess I possibly can now. But I mean, if you're going to be wearing a mask in a shop, it's not like you could take a thing of tea and be like, "Do I like this?" and smell it because you've got this mask on. So I don't know. I'm out of Maghreb mint. It's like this Moroccan mint tea, and it's amazing. So. Death of One. Is the tutorial still planned? What I know about the tutorial is that there are a number of features that have been added to the game since the tutorial was developed that are not covered in the tutorial. And so what we know is, what I know is very little. What I also know is that there's somebody at the company who has been basically looking into the tutorial and all the data points in it and trying to find ways to gauge player behavior, see what is working for players, what isn't working for players, timing, all that stuff. There's a lot of background data and information, data points, etc., that we can get from that. And I don't know where on the priorities list it is in terms of, do we need to get something for it? Like, do we need to remake it altogether, or do we need whatever? The number one thing not working for players, Bruner not being a tank. Yeah, I mean that's actually something that, when you think about it, like when the game came out and that tutorial was part of it, the shielding, tanking, and healing update had not been conceived, let alone come out. And so, you level up your Bruner, he can tank a bunch of stuff, and he can't now. So that's actually a really good point, Garwar. Dylan is going to discover the underground black tea market. Oh, maybe. Since you are a tea lover and go to the shops, have you ever uttered the phrase Earl Grey hot? I mean, I'm a Star Trek fan, so of course, yeah. You got to do it with a bit of a British accent too, right? Like tea, Earl Grey hot. But yeah, I can't say I've ever gone into a shop and done that, because if I were running a tea shop and somebody came in and said tea, Earl Grey hot, I would just point at the door and be like, get out. Alrighty. Ooh, Taiwanese stuff. That sounds delicious. Alrighty. It was my 10th walnut gold chest. Hey, congrats. Sorry, I thought I heard a weird clicking noise, and I'm like, am I bumping into something? But maybe it's something on the other side of the wall. Anywho, so one of the things that the pandemic and working from home has done, in addition to like I only come into the office to stream now, basically, I am, you know, I had promised my DM after the Tomb of Annihilation campaign that he took us through over the course of a couple of years because we just weren't able to meet on a regular basis. I told him, I'm like, okay, I will DM. At first I'd promised to DM Waterdeep Dragon Heist for him, but then the Tomb of Annihilation campaign kept going until after Baldur's Gate: Descent into Avernus came out, and so I said, "Oh, okay, fine. I will DM Descent into Avernus for you." And so I've been doing that over the pandemic, and they finally made it to Avernus because now the real fun can begin. And I'm just gonna use a contract to get rid of the things. Plunk. Boom. Look at all that stuff. Tokens. Anyways, DPS back up to normal. So yeah, I'm like, they're finally in Avernus, and I'm just like, excellent, because all the really fun, cool, and interesting stuff that I had planned to mercilessly introduce to the campaign can now be done, because I've taken them through the motions of the introductory adventures and making your way through Baldur's Gate and then to Candlekeep and all that stuff. And so I'm excited because I just have like so many huge plans for them. And then the other campaign that I'm DMing is Waterdeep Dragon Heist one that we had started the weekend after that book came out. But it was with some friends that we just don't get to see very often, and so we would play in person. So, once every couple of months, we would, I don't know, they would come over or something and stay with us, and we would like do a weekend where we do like 2 8-hour sessions of D&D over the course of the weekend, like full work days of D&D, like 15, 16 hours, and we've been doing that Dragon Heist campaign for some time, so we started that back up again as a weekly game. And we've been just moving through to clip, like getting our way through stuff. And last night, because that's what I did for Canada Today, was DM'd Dragon Heist. They were on the hunt for a Mind Flayer on the orders of the Lackstaff, and they found the Mind Flayer unexpectedly, like more easily than they had intended to find them. So these 4 level 6 characters are about to fight 2 Mind Flayers, because I don't make anything easy for anybody, and I want at least one of them to have their brain eaten. So this is kind of, yeah, that's where we're at. No, but seriously, it's been a lot of fun, but it's also just like playing your D&D game regularly. It's such a nice luxury, especially when you're an adult and like there's kids involved, and you either need babysitters or you need to have them around or whatever. Like life just makes it more and more challenging to do. But like now that we're so used to Zoom gaming, it's been a lot of fun. It's been cool. I don't prefer it to seeing my friends in person and like enjoying a whiskey and like barbecue and playing D&D, but yeah. Well, so Crazy Matt Captain says it's like, sounds like we need to warn your players from your evil. So they knew that the one Mind Flayer was there, but they didn't do their due diligence to realize that there was a second one. Basically, they had happened upon a scene where the Mind Flayer was welcoming another Mind Flayer into the world through the time-honored tradition of Ceramorphosis. And so the humanoid that they thought they were going to be rescuing, who was passed out on this platform, I basically described to them the humanoid like getting up, and as they kind of get up, it's like exiting its skin, like its chrysalis, and it just kind of like gets up, and like as it gets up, like the body, all the more human like flesh just kind of like splits and slides off as it like gets up as a Mind Flayer. So they'd arrived at the end of Ceramorphosis. So in order to make it fair, because Mind Flayers are CR7 and two CR7s versus a party of four sixth level adventurers who have sweet gear because I'm a pretty generous DM. Uh, Anyways, in order to make it fair, the Mind Flayer that just woke up doesn't have access to its crazy psionic scream that has a massive cone radius and all that stuff because that would be unfair to hit the entire party with two of those in the first round. It would just be like, that'd be it. TPK. Um, so, yeah. It's not a true Mind Flayer party without the slurping. Yeah. It's just, I want a brain to get eaten. Not being a D&D player, I'm wondering how you will judge when your future child has surpassed you in D&D DMing or player skill. I don't think that there's an element of somebody outskilling you or outplaying you in D&D as long as people are having fun. Like, I think one of the great things about it is that, if somebody is really into drama and acting and playing characters and stuff, like there's an element of D&D that is for them. They can RP to their heart's content. Or if they're really interested in things that are technical and strategy and all that stuff, and like they can get deep into the mechanical components of combat and the game, and battle maps and minis and so on. I don't think it's possible to like outthink all your players because it doesn't matter who your players are, they will come up with stuff you didn't think of. And the younger somebody is, which is to say, before somebody has gone through the public school system and had creativity stamped out of them by the system and the man, the more creative people tend to be and the more unique their ideas. And I think that, encouraging my child to be creative and come up with new ideas and experiment as, playing D&D with them as young as I can hopefully do. Like, I don't know, maybe what would be a good age? Like maybe 8 or 9, like when they're able to sit at a table and pay attention to a game, as opposed to they can't sit still and they need to run around and play. But I look forward to it. I don't know that I can judge that I've been surpassed. I just, I hope that they enjoy it is really it. Because, yeah, D&D's a lot of fun. I think everybody should play it. I missed a block of text up there. A few more hints for the item/upgrades and how it works with the quality. Still not sure if my math is right there. Would help new people to, I guess, decent improvement of character bios with detailed stats, the abilities, and the choices. That's what I can say after 5 days of playing. Thanks for the feedback. Yeah, we do know that there are advanced effects descriptions in the game. I don't know if you're aware of that, Timo Bot Insane. But if you go into your settings and you switch your effect description from basic to advanced, you will get a lot more information in your formation buffs and how it's behaving, how much you're getting, where it's going, etc. Which should help a lot with that if you're a brand new player. But it's kind of an overwhelming amount of information. Things like the DPS breakdown, base ultimate damage, and all this stuff. Like, I don't want to say they're advanced mechanics because they're just the mechanics. But when you're still getting the hang of the game and you're still getting used to the idea of, you're opening chests and the equipment is permanent, but the consumables only last for that adventure or a small amount of time in that adventure, and you're getting used to the idea of resetting and starting over, perceivably starting over and over again. How all the buffs and abilities interact and how complicated it can get seems like it might be an overwhelming amount of information. So, yeah. Speaking of stamping out creativity, can we have 10 seconds of on-stream silence for the end of the coloring sheets? The end for now, at least per Margaret. Just to speak to that briefly, it's just because there were fewer and fewer and fewer people engaging with them. We will still make coloring sheets, and they'll still get added to the coloring sheet page on the website, but it's not something that we're focusing as much resources on, I guess. Now that I guess it seemed like it was something that people were very into when they were stuck at home, and we were all obeying social distancing, and we were all kind of in the same boat, and people needed something to relax. And now that People are kind of returning to some semblance of normalcy in their lives. They're playing. They're drawing on a few of them. There's a handful of very dedicated players who did a lot of coloring sheets, but for the most part, a lot of them, a lot of the usage just has kind of slowed down. So, yeah, I'll do 10 seconds of silence. Okay, so Smut Puffin. My 5-year-old autistic stepson doesn't understand the game, but he loves rolling the dice and the storytelling, and will sit there quietly the entire game. He plays a non-verbal Firbolg named George. That is freaking awesome. That is so awesome. Right on. And like, yeah, that's so. Yeah, that's awesome. I don't even know what to say to that. I'm glad they're having, you know, if I don't know if they're having fun, but at the very least being entertained. That's very cool. Let's see. When my wife started playing the game, she got confused about the difference between gold drops from silver and gold chests. Silver chests apply their gold immediately, while gold chests drop contracts. She refused to open any gold chest because she was waiting until she really needed the gold. Yeah, that's an interesting point. And it's a valuable bit of feedback. I know that, you know, there are certainly a vocal percentage of players who have been asking us to just remove gold drops from silver chests. And like contracts, they have their uses. Like they can help you get that bit of money that you don't have when you're trying to get something done. Like they can help you get into an event, get deeper into an event more quickly. They can help you purchase champion levels more quickly, etc. But I tend to personally just not use contracts. Like once you reach a certain point, you end up hoarding them. And this is just the number that I have hoarded at the moment. And then like during an event, you know, I'll look at how many tokens I have, and then I'll use contracts to get enough extra tokens to buy the last gold chest or something during an event. So that's an interesting bit of feedback. Yeah, I'll pass that along. What's the... would Margaret consider doing a monthly stream of coloring sheets colored by the community? I'd like to see her stream more, maybe a longer period, showcasing submissions. I can't speak for Margaret. I can pass it along. I don't. If there's already a declining interest in the coloring sheets to the point where, you know, we're not going to be actively doing the coloring sheet contests every week anymore, I have a hard time picturing there being enough activity to justify doing a stream dedicated to it every month. So I don't know. I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. I can float the idea to the team and see if it's something that we might want to consider. But for now, I think it's just, you know, we move on to something else. Yeah. As a new player, having the contracts for this event was very helpful, though, so it is a balancing act. Yeah. You know, I think that erring on the side of caution and not using contracts and potions and consumables, if you can avoid it, is good. But having the option to use them, to experiment, try them out, you know, etc. in advance is also good. So it's a balance that you kind of need to find for yourself. I personally color only when it's cute. Yeah. I mean, we could put out more cute coloring sheets. I know there's a familiar coming into the game in the relatively near future that defines cute. Yeah, more so than the ones that we already have in the game, and that's saying something. It's just, yeah, it's the cutest familiar ever, and I'm excited to see the reaction from players when they get released. More than Baby Spurt. So the Baby Spurt's pretty darn cute. Personally, I think this one's cuter. However, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It is a subjective thing. So, alrighty, I'm a fairly new player. My question: I am right now at level area 84 in the Founders Day mission. If I cancel it, do I have to start from one, or can I resume at level 84? So if you complete adventure to reset, you will end up starting over at level 1 the next time you do it. But what you will get to keep is, the equipment from any chests that you get or have opened, and you will also get to keep a percentage of the gold earned as divine favor, which will help you earn gold more quickly the next time you do a Founders Day adventure. So it's not a total loss, because increasing your gold find through favor is the way to, like, that's how you eventually get much exponentially greater amounts of gold. So it's worth it to reset, as long as you're happy with the progress you've made. Thank you for pointing out the advanced display option in settings. I was looking to get more information. Yeah, I'm glad it helps. Yeah, it was a very cool feature. I'm glad that we managed to get it in. Just my 2 cents. I get why Eider coloring is over for now. I just hope more come out regularly, as I will always be interested in coloring them. Oh, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that feedback. I will pass that along. Yeah, it just seemed like it had turned into a very dedicated small group of players, and we're just like, okay, like, we only have so much time to be working on this stuff. Is this the best use of our time in this moment? And so I will pass the feedback along. Alrighty. Are you going to pull content from the Red Nose Day adventure, Return to the Glory? Orcs need some love. That's the adventure that they put out that is trying to put a different spin on how orcs are perceived and treated, right? That's what that one is. Just kind of pulling that up. Yeah. This one. Okay, so it's like, it's about, orcs, trying to reclaim themselves and their history. I don't know that we have any plans to introduce any of it, but it's a really interesting thing to mention, and I don't know. I'll pass that along to Chris. Maybe there's some way that it can be integrated into one of our campaigns at some point. At this point, we would need more even tangentially orc-related characters, though, right? Like, there's Krond, and that's the breadth of our orc characters, is a half orc. So, how much gold find do you have? You're getting way too much gold. Let's see. I have. Oh God, I have. Yeah, this is. I have. E89 gold find. So I'm getting a lot of gold. This campaign was one where I used a. I exploited my way to high favor with Krull's very bugged stuff a while back. Yeah, Krond might not be the best example for stereotype breaking. No, that's totally true. I think if we're going to try and tackle an adventure that is about, going against tropes and stereotypes, that Krond would not be the way to lead that by any stretch. Yeah. Let's see. There's a thing I dislike about the gold out of silver chests. If my observations are correct, gold find by champion seems to just not work. So when I farm favor near my wall with max bank gold efficiency, the silver chest will usually give like roughly E-5 of what I usually get from enemies. So it feels obsolete. Huh. I don't know if that was intended or not. I can pass that along. I know that they were intended to be kind of like very niche usage, and that they have more use early game for like adventures where you're, you know, when you're starting an event or you're starting a campaign out and you have no divine favor to start. That's when silver chests shine as a way to get gold, because at level 1 you open some silver chests, you purchase a couple of characters, etc. Like, you just kind of set yourself up a little more quickly. What is the other half of Briv? It doesn't specify, I don't think. Oh yeah, I guess Briv's a half orc too, isn't he? Where is Briv? What slot is he in? Is this the one? No. Plunk. Yeah, he's a half orc. I forgot all about Briv. Which is funny because he's newer than Krond. Why would it be necessary to fight stereotypes in a fictional world? The stereotypes are almost always true because that's how they are described. I mean, that is a huge, huge, huge question, OJ Drinker, that I'm not sure. I'm not sure I have the time with 25 minutes left to even attempt to tackle it. But the thing about stereotypes and stereotyping is that it reinforces systems that maintain those stereotypes. Like, why is it necessary to fight stereotypes in a fictional world? It's like, especially when it comes to let's say orcs. All orcs are evil, and how that's problematic. Like, it's problematic because you're making a race evil because of their race, not because of choices that the individuals made, or because of who they, like, you're not making an individual bad, you're making a race bad. So when it comes to stereotyping in fantasy, like, there are a lot of fantasy tropes that are rooted in racism, either outright or just systemic racism, that get unintentionally translated into the fantasy genre. And it's a lot to ask people who potentially already deal with these kinds of stereotyping or racism to experience it in a game, because it's fun as well. If you're looking for a better way to describe it, OJ Drinker, because I can only assume that you're curious. There was a hashtag Black AF panel hosted by Critical Bard during D&D Live, where they start to dive into that subject with a lot more depth and experience than I am capable of, because it is a big subject and it is a big topic. But like, the TLDR is like, they're actually, I don't think I can TLDR it. I think it's too big. I'm not saying that everybody who plays games or plays D&D needs to fight stereotyping in their gameplay. Like, at the end of the day, the relationship that you have with your DM, or you as a DM have with your players, and how they exist together. You do what's fun for you. But I would encourage you to check with your players, to have a very thorough session 0 and be clear with everybody about, like, what experiencing this campaign is going to be like. What topics or settings or events or whatever are things that are, out of bounds or to be avoided. You don't ever really know the sum total of experiences that another person has had in their life, and so you don't necessarily know when you might accidentally make them revisit something that was harmful. And so that's just where, like, clear communication with your players or with your DM and vice versa, and making sure that you're all on the same page, and making sure that the game is fun for everybody is an important first step, I think, before you start playing D&D. Um, you know, yeah. Anyway, so it's a very big question. Like, it's not that you can only be lawful good if you're a paladin; it's that you can only be a paladin if you're lawful good. Except that that's not the case anymore. So, in older editions of D&D, you had to fit a very, very specific, narrow niche to play some of the different types of classes. But in 5e, there are all kinds of paladins. You know, getting into the whole subject of good and evil, like a lot of it's perspective. Um, you know, if two factions are against each other, um, who's to say that one is evil and one is good? Necessarily, it is a point of view. It's so the whole alignment moral compass thing is also something that like doesn't jive with a lot of players anymore. Um, Anyways, so yeah, if I could sum sum things up quickly, like there is a lot of unintentional stereotyping and racism and other things in not just D&D, like all fictionalized media, fantasy. Like it's kind of made its way everywhere, and now people are becoming more aware of it. Um, so knowing and becoming aware of it, well, you condone it if you opt to do nothing about something, right? Like if you're like, I'm just going to carry on as it was. It's like, well, then you condone it. And so, yeah, it's a whole giant conversation that I've been rambling about now for a few minutes and like haven't made any headway on. So I will leave it to the people who actually are outspoken critics and much more of an expert on the subject than I am. So yeah, strongly encourage everybody to watch the Black AF um, stream that the D&D Live put out. It had Critical Bard, it had Ember Moon, it had B. Dave Walters, it had Tanya DePass, it had who else was in it, and a couple of people I haven't actually personally met, so I didn't know who they were. But it was a great discussion. It is a heavy and it's a dense discussion. It's an emotional discussion. But I encourage everybody to check it out to just gain more insight, to learn more. I look at it as a whole. Also, just considering things like a lich always evil, but in 2e you had the arch lich, which was a good alignment lich. It's important that evil is based on motives and actions, not on race class. Yeah, exactly. Maybe a lich has been a lich for 5,000 years, and after 4,000 years of trying to be an evil lich, trying to conquer all things, gain all the knowledge, you know, changed their perspective, and is now doing the opposite. I don't know. Like, it's just it's problematic when you just kind of stamp evil like this is evil, or this it's like it's unfair. There's a lot of problematic stuff in just society, but like in D&D and fantasy, and how some of these things have come together that is worth exploring, is worth learning more about, and then ultimately like the players and the DM at an individual table can decide what they're comfortable with and what they want to do. If you became a patron, what would your champion requirement be? Um, hmm. That's an interesting one. I think if I were a patron, my champion requirement would be champions that do not have the support tag can be used. No support champions would be my patron requirement. And then it's just like, I don't know, I think it's something like bleak to use as the phrasing for it, like there's no help coming or something like that. I don't know. Is there one main dialogue creator at Codename Entertainment? In recent streams, there's been a lot of positive chat about the humorous text involving my very first IC love, Jarlaxle. So the first, I don't know, handful of adventures that were created for the game were written and created by Justin and David. And then eventually we brought on Scott Fitzgerald Gray, who has been doing them for years now. So the vast majority of the adventures in the game were written by Scott Fitzgerald Gray. I think he goes by @SFGray on Twitter. No, that's not it. What is his thing? Scott F. Gray. @Scott F. Gray. So he's the one who writes the vast majority of the dialogue for the game. Yeah. And he also, he's put a lot of D&D stuff out there. Worked on it a lot. He's a good guy. Alrighty. Is the C&E team aware of the recent announced changes at the Congregate site? I mean, those are recent changes, F922. We are aware, yeah. It would be nice to have a response on the Kong site if possible. Enjoying the game. Thank you. When I walked in this room to set up the stream and get it running, I think we were still in communication with people at Congregate. So I don't know what that means from here on out. But yeah, I will pass along your sentiment, and it was a surprising morning for news on that subject. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, so I was thinking about the Session Zeros. So with my home Dragon Heist campaign, when we did our Session Zero and we were talking about what we wanted the experience of playing it like, they wanted a pretty lighthearted adventure. They just wanted it to be fun. And there were a few of us had not played together before, and one person had never played D&D before. And so it's been a pretty light adventure. We haven't dived into any dark topics. I've messed with them quite a bit because I am of the opinion that you only really feel like you've accomplished things in D&D and like the adventure has been worthwhile. Like you only really feel a major sense of accomplishment when you feel like you could lose. When you feel like there is a risk to the actions that your characters take. So I tend to lean towards balancing things very difficult. And then, I swear to God, even though I do that, I get surprised by players all the time who just, come up with stuff or just roll a bunch of crits and just, win. So you never know. But it's, Session Zeros are probably the single biggest piece of advice I could give to anybody who wants to be a DM or who wants to play D&D and you want to play with a group for the first time is be clear with each other about what kind of experience you're hoping to have. If they want, do they want to play through A Knight's Tale or do they want to play through, one of the good seasons of Game of Thrones? Do they want to play through Monty Python and the Search for the Holy Grail? Or do they want to play through Castle in the Sky? What kind of experience do they want to have, as a group? And just kind of mutually agree upon what your experience is going to be and then go for it. Have fun. Mess with your players. Trick them into things. Alrighty. Something's up with Congregate now. Congregate. I'm not going to speak for Congregate, and I'm not personally in the loop about all the details. But as I understand it, Congregate has massively downsized, is no longer accepting new games, and is making a number of changes. So, if you are a Congregate player or somebody who uses Congregate, check out their website and read their update. Torontonian, how many mimics have they fought? They haven't fought any. Not because I don't like messing with players that way, but I am saving mimics and doppelgangers for something that I have planned for them. Yeah. If you got to design a champion and had to choose from a GIF, a Lokatha, or a Grung, what would it be? It'd be a GIF, absolutely. Yeah, great big hippo man with a British accent and like, yeah, yeah, easily GIF. Um, Not that Lokatha or Grung aren't interesting because they are, um, and they're cute. But I don't know, GIF are just so amusing. Yeah. And now, thanks to Chris Perkins, I can only think of them as weird Imperial space Brits. Alrighty, let's see. Bum, 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 bum. A Vorpal bunny. Hey, that's a good idea. Actually, I'm gonna pass that along. Where do I write that down? Oh man, we create an item that's just two coconuts that increases movement speed when clocked together. Clock, 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 clock. I mean, you know, Monty Python and the Search of the Holy Grail is a D&D game. Like, it is the most D&D game you've ever watched. It's so nonsensical and like just the way that it wraps up and they get arrested at the end. Like it's D&D. Like yeah, it's God. It was so funny. Tis but to scratch. Bum, 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 bum. All right. Oh. Um, I think once we do this last giveaway, I'm going to wrap it up a little bit early because I've talked myself raw and my beverage is about to run out. Oh man, I'm probably going to go home and watch Monty Python. Um, oh, that reminds me. So, not to plug something that has nothing to do with us or even video games, but Studio Ghibli's films are on Netflix now. You should all watch them. Watch all of them. God, they're amazing. And I'd forgotten like, so I watched Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind the other night for the first time in God like almost 30 years, and it's still a masterpiece. But they're also like it's such a unique flavor of animation and how well it's done, and like you kind of watch them and you're like, this is this is what Pixar wishes it could do, and not to and this isn't to shit on Pixar. Pixar makes some great films, but Studio Ghibli make the films that anybody who is into animation wishes they could make. And we watched Howl's Moving Castle a couple nights ago. We watched Tales from Earthsea, which I wasn't the hugest fan of. Like I enjoyed watching it, and parts of it were good, but it was Hayao Miyazaki's son's first film, and it was I don't know, it wasn't as good. Beautifully animated, but it wasn't as good as some of the other ones. Mononoke Hime, Princess Mononoke is awesome. Uh, Spirited Away is awesome. There's just tons and tons of good stuff. Anyways, if you in any way find yourself interested in fantasy, you should watch every Studio Ghibli film, so you can like understand like, wow, this is amazing, and like, wow, this is so much better than animation is anywhere else in the world, and like they're just incredible. That may just be in Canada. They're not on US Netflix. I found that I had to search for them in order for them to show up. Hamilton is coming to Disney Plus, not Netflix. And then Studio Ghibli came to Canadian Netflix last week. I think it might have been purchased by HBO for the United States. I'm not quite sure. Well, then the two Canadians out of the people that are in chat watch all the Studio Ghibli. So it's HBO Max in the US. Ugh. Ooh. Sorry. Yeah. Well, at least HBO Max is getting the Snyder cut of Justice League at some point, which will be apparently nothing like the Justice League film that came out. Yeah. And see the Dark Crystal 2. Yes, Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. So I watched that last year. It is just like some of the most spectacular craftsmanship of anything you've ever watched. Like everything is it's pure art. It's like watching art, and it takes a little bit to get into because it's definitely different to watch. But it just reminds you of like how magical a lot of the stuff that Jim Henson did was, and like what they can pull off now. And like yeah, Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance was wonderful. What a wonderful experience that was. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Also, I mean, if you don't have HBO Max or Netflix or whatever it is you need to watch the Studio Ghibli films, I hear there's a thing called BitTorrent that I highly recommend. Anyways, HBO Max offered you 3 months for 3, so I've been watching anything I can. Hey, yeah, if that works. So US Netflix doesn't get it, so that's weird. So another thing, so first of all, region locking content in the era of the internet is just the dumbest frickin' thing I could possibly imagine. And the fact that anybody does it is just like dumb. It's just the worst. So like another example is there's a bunch of shows that are available everywhere other than the United States on Netflix. Apparently, the Studio Ghibli films might be one of those, but things like the Star Trek Discovery, which is on CBS All Access in the United States. CBS All Access isn't available anywhere else, and so it's on Netflix for like the rest of the planet. Other than, I think it's the United States and Canada. It's I don't have it on Netflix, and then everywhere else it's on Netflix. But Canada has its own streaming service called Crave, and so you know, didn't take all these companies a long time to mess up streaming and make just a huge amount of mess. Did it? Like they just sped right into copyright restrictions. It's not copyright restrictions. It's licensing. Like it's region locking content and region licensing. It's a whole lot of manufactured bullshit to try and get people to either spend more money on things or buy more things or whatever. It's just The streaming wars have turned streaming into the new buying cable packages, right? So what I'm saying is if you are a member of a torrent site, don't give up your membership because you never know when you're going to end up using it. Getting those restrictions on YouTube and such is infuriating. Well, it's dumb. It's like the internet is information that is supposed to be accessible from all over the planet. And so the fact that anybody tries to clamp down on any parts of it anywhere is just something that I am personally fundamentally against. Anyways, it's 2:52. I'm sorry to have gotten so many folks' hopes up about Studio Ghibli films being on their Netflix if it's not showing up for them. Because, those films truly are masterpieces. Anyways, God, are there any films coming out this year? Even they're all getting pushed back again, right? Like they started reopening theaters, and now they're pushing them back and rescinding their opening up orders and all this stuff. So I guess I will leave it by saying, first and foremost, I hope wherever you are that you are safe, that you are taking care, that you are, obeying social distancing and hand washing and mask wearing, whatever your laws are. Like I hope that you're able to keep safe wherever you are because I know that it looks like a lot of people who are asymptomatic have no lasting effects related to COVID-19. But do you really want to risk being the person who has permanently damaged lung function or other issues related to it, or God forbid, is one of the unusual outliers who, it can get you at any age. So for the love of God, please stay safe, stay healthy, support creators and content that you love. And just take care. It's been a fun week. It's always nice to reconnect with you and just have a chatting stream where we can talk. And take care, everybody, and enjoy the 100th episode of Critical Role later tonight. We'll catch you tomorrow for Griddle Champions. Have a good one, everybody. Cheers.